There are markings. It's some form of Elvish. I can't read it.
There are few who can. In the common tongue, it says, one ring to rule them all. One ring to find them. One ring to bring them all. And in the darkness, find them.
Hey guys, what is up? Niyat here with Film Comics Explained, and today I wanted to take a look at the Ring of Power. The One Ring was one of the most powerful artifacts ever created in Middle-earth. It was crafted by the Dark Lord Sauron in the fires of Mount Doom during the Second Age. Sauron was a fallen Maya who served Aiul the Smith, the great craftsman of the Valar, before being corrupted by his master, Melkor. As a result of working for Aiul the Smith, Sauron came to possess great knowledge of the physical substances of the world, forging, and all manner of craftsmanship. Around 1500 of the Second Age, Sauron, calling himself Annatar, also known as Lord of the Gifts, befriended the Noldor of the region, and instructed Celebrimbor and the elves in the art of ring-making. Under the guidance and instruction of Sauron, the elves openly made 16 rings of power, 9 for the race of men and 7 crafted for the dwarves. Sauron had been secretly corrupting the rings with dark magic. His intent was to enhance his own power and to exercise control over the other rings of power, which had been made by Celebrimbor. In this way, he hoped to gain lordship over all the other races on Middle-earth. Sauron forged the One Ring in secret, a master ring that would rule all the lesser rings and enable him to inflict influence over those who used the other rings. Unknown to Sauron, Celebrimbor had used all that he had learnt to craft 3 rings of his own in secret, which were more powerful than the 16 crafted for Sauron. These were the 3 rings of the elves, named Vilya, Narya, and Nenya, after the principal Middle-earth elements of air, fire, and water. Untouched by Sauron and thus never corrupted by his darkness, Celebrimbor had sent the 3 rings away for safekeeping. To accomplish his goal of world domination, Sauron knew that the One Ring would need to contain an extraordinary amount of power. As such, he concentrated within the ring a great part of his essence. In this way, Sauron's fate became bound to that of the ring. If it were damaged or destroyed, so too would be Sauron's strength and power. Sauron tortured Celebrimbor, who revealed the locations of all the rings of power, but the 3 of which he valued most. Nenya, the Ring of Water, was given to Galadriel. Narya, the Ring of Fire, was originally given to Gil-galad, who passed it on to Círdan, who finally gave it to Gandalf.
You cannot pass! I am the servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of Arnor. The dark fire will not avail you, flame of Udun!
Vilya, the Ring of Air, was also originally worn by Gil-galad before being given to Elrond.
A last alliance of men and elves marched against the armies of Mordor, and on the slopes of Mount Doom, they fought for the freedom of Middle-earth. Victory was near, but the power of the ring could not be undone.
During the last alliance of elves and men, the ring was cut from Sauron's hand by Isildur. Unable to destroy the ring due to its sway over his will, the ring corrupted Isildur and led him to his death by increasing its size and slipping out of his finger when he had worn it in the river Anduin to escape orcs. The ring appeared to be made of gold, but was essentially impervious to damage. Even dragonfire would have no effect on the One Ring. It could only be destroyed by someone whose smithing was as great as Sauron's, such as Aiul the Smith, or by throwing it into the pit of Mount Doom from whence it came. The Ring of Power bore no gems, but when heated it displayed a fiery inscription in Elvish runes. The lines were later taken up into a rhyme of lore describing the rings, but they were evidently part of the spell that imbued the One Ring with power, since the elves had heard Sauron utter the same words during the ring's creation.
I have things to do. so for far too long. I'm going now. I bid you all a very fond farewell. Goodbye.
When a person puts on the ring, they immediately leave the physical realm and enter the spirit world. This essentially made the wearer appear to be invisible to physical beings like living men. Unfortunately, this acted like a beacon for those that inhabited the unseen world, like the ring wraiths. For ring bearers, the ring had several side effects, most of them negative. The first was that the bearer of the ring almost immediately began to develop an unusually strong attachment to it, and would be unwilling to give it up or abandon it. Like the other rings of power, it would extend the lifespan of a mortal who possessed it indefinitely. But that person, as Gandalf put it, would not grow to obtain more life, but would merely continue to live until every minute was an unbearable weariness.
I'm old, Gandalf. I know I don't look it, but I'm beginning to feel it in my heart.
One potentially positive effect was that the ring may have granted the wearer some understanding of the speech of evil creatures. In the novels, while wearing the ring, Samwise Gamgee was able to understand the black speech used by the orcs of Mordor, who came to take Frodo's unconscious body to Cirith Ungol. Gandalf held that if the ring was worn too frequently, the wearer would become wraith-like over time and become entirely consumed by the spirit world. This was evidently the case with the 9 kings of men, who had been given a ring of power by Sauron and lived for thousands of years as the Nazgul. Merely keeping the ring without using it greatly slowed most of the negative effects. The ring's owner also did not need to wear it in order to benefit from its effects of aging. For example, Bilbo hardly ever used the ring, yet he was seen to age remarkably well for a hobbit that had outlived his natural lifespan. We have a whole chapter in the Lord of the Rings titled Concerning Hobbits, as well as the Hobbit itself, which was written first, that gives us an insight into their nature. The books describe them as short, gentle farming folk who enjoyed food, ales, partying, and the giving and receiving of presents. Being a hobbit, Bilbo had no desire for greatness or to rule Middle-earth, which is why the ring had a limited effect over him for the years that he carried it. The circumstances of how the ring was found seemed to also play a profound role in how quickly the ring's negative effects began to take hold of the bearer, as did the bearer's own disposition. Gollum, for instance, obtained the ring by means of murdering his best friend, and as such the negative effects of the ring on his mind in particular manifested relatively quickly. Bilbo, on the other hand, not only obtained the ring by chance, but when confronted with an opportunity to slay Gollum within minutes of finding the ring, he chooses not to out of pity. Due to this, I think the ring had only just barely begun to negatively affect his mind, even over 60 years of having it in his possession. I think it's also important to note that Bilbo was ultimately able to give it up of his own free will, hard as though it was, which is a near impossible feat for everyone else. The One Ring, being essentially an extension of Sauron himself, was evil in nature. It seemed to possess at least a limited will of its own, and could call out to other people in an attempt to get them to pick it up or possibly kill the current owner. The One Ring was also capable of changing sizes, and could easily slip off a finger where it had once fit perfectly, which is what led to Isildur's death, as mentioned earlier. The ring's primary power was control over the other rings and the domination of the wills of its users. However, its effectiveness in this manner proved pretty limited, as the wielders of the 3 elven rings never used them while Sauron held the one, and the dwarves to whom the 7 had been given proved too tough for Sauron's mental influence to take hold, although they were inevitably corrupted by the rings. What I thought was really ironic about the ring was that it doesn't offer the wielder protection from any physical harm. For example, while wearing the ring, Frodo was still seriously injured by the Witch King and his Morgul blade, and lost a finger when Gollum bit it off. And Sauron himself suffered the destruction of his physical body while wearing the ring. As it contained a part of Sauron's power, it seemed to exhibit a malevolent but limited form of sentience. While separated from Sauron, the ring would strive to return to him, both by impelling its bearer to yield to Sauron or his servants, or by abandoning its possessor at key moments. Despite its powerful qualities, neither the ring's innate power nor its power over others was absolute. 3 times Sauron had suffered military defeat with it in his possession. first by Tar Minister, roughly around the 1700s of the Second Age, and again by Ar-Pharazôn in 3262 of the Second Age, when the strength of the Númenóreans caused his armies to flee. He was defeated once more at the end of the Second Age by the last alliance of elves and men, which culminated in his personal defeat at the hands of Gil-galad, Elendil, and Isildur. Tolkien has constructed such a beautiful and elaborate world and was a master of storytelling. I love the books and think Peter Jackson did a phenomenal job to bring the pages to life both in his Hobbit and Lord of the Rings film trilogies. I really hope you guys have enjoyed this video on The One Ring. If there's any other Lord of the Rings content you guys would like me to check out, let me know in the comments below. As always, it's been a pleasure. Niyat here with Film Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.